Okay, welcome everybody. So we're going to talk about and play with murmurocracy, which is, according to Google, what's called a neologism, which means a newly coined word. Apparently, it's been talked about, used as a word in science fiction books and stuff like that, but it's not in any dictionary yet. I'm on the case. So, and let's say the group that I host, the Murmuration of Maestros, which a number of you are in, um, I would say we're pretty close to a murmurocracy. We work modeled on murmuration. I don't think we're 100% fitting it quite completely, but we're pretty good, close to it, I would say. And I've been looking for examples and I've found some good ones that I think represent it. So I'll share some of that with you. But what I want to do is we talk about what it is, how it works, and then look at the skills that it takes to have a murmurocracy so that we play with some of that. Because the skills are very different from theocracy, which is it's oriented through a kind of God and entity kind of thing, a religious sort of autocracy where one person is controlling the show, or democracy where people are voting for representation. So this is very different. It's modeled on the murmuration of starlings, which I think is just awesome, the murmuration of starlings. And if I can talk about that for a minute, if you've ever watched a murmuration of starlings, either on a video or in real time, it's breathtaking. It's not just a bunch of birds not hitting each other. That's a very simplistic way of talking about what's happening because what they create is something, an energetic experience and sometimes imagery that's just breathtaking. It's almost like there's some kind of hand. Hi, Bobby. There's some kind of greater intelligence at flow through it and inspiring us, I think, ourselves to find new ways forward, similar to a murmuration, which is quite exciting. So, hence a murmurocracy modeled on murmuration, which, I will say myself that I think in some cases that's tricky to do because we're used to hierarchical structures and how everything works and people at the top being a leader, and but really a murmuration or a murmurocracy, it's not leaderless, it's kind of leaderful. It has multiple, like the leaders rotate in a murmuration, and I think there's a rotational movement for it in a murmurocracy as well. So let me give you a good example of one that I found. And it's a group in the US called Hot Mess Express. And they're moms essentially helping moms out for a day. So what happens is you apply because maybe you're a single mom, you're working full time, you got 5 kids, you can't keep your house together, your house is a mess, you can't do the laundry, you just can't keep up. So these mums get the application, and all these mums just show up at the house for a day, do all the laundry, clean it up, do the yard work, get the whole place set. So now you can be in your home and start. It's kind of like a fresh start. For there's no money. It's a complete non-profit. And I couldn't even say, looking at it on the website, it's not like somebody's name says I'm the founder. It's moms helping moms. And I think that's like a murmuration, a murmurocracy, because the right moms go to the right houses, and sometimes they go and sometimes they can't. And there's no rules based attached to it. Isn't that cool? I thought that was a really good example of how a murmurocracy would work. Another one that I found is called Hypervoisin in Paris, where somebody started with a community, a neighborhood in Paris. So Hypervoisin, I think, means super neighbors. I think that's how it translates. And they decided they'd they'd bring out all their own tables and they do a kind of potluck, is how you'd say it, I think. And everybody brings a dish. And it got so successful that eventually they had 5 miles of tables and neighbors. And what happened from it, oh, again, you have no idea who started it. There's nobody running it. It just kind of got a life of its own. And they started talking amongst themselves and started solving neighborhood problems. So they became a kind of social influence and creation separate from a local council or local government fixing the problem or having to deal with any of that. And I thought that was another kind of great example of how something like that works. And I would say it starts with somebody has a calling or a vision, but it's different than being a visionary and creating a company and, hiring people and or even doing a nonprofit. I think it's more like you create a resonant calling. So if you look at the Hot Mess Express, not every mom in the US is going to participate. The moms who are called, who probably had those experiences, who have time, and there's a resonant calling into the vision. And anybody who's not resonant doesn't get called into it. And I think that's an essential start to a murmurocracy. So in our Murmuration of Maestros group, our resonant calling is we're going to elevate and evolve the world together. That's our calling. That's where we meet. We're not all the same beliefs or the same approaches or the same, but we meet in a resonant calling. And I think that's essential for murmurocracy. So I would just love to ask, how many of you have either been a part of or witnessed or know about something like that in the world? I'd just like to see. Oh, good. Oh, great. Oh, yeah, most of us. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? It's very different from something that's structured. So I don't think this has rigid rules. And isn't there a lot of that in the world today? A lot of rules, a lot of administration, a lot of organization, a lot of how things are supposed to be. And I think in a murmuration, it's very fluidly, dynamically, always moving to what's next, and what's not working kind of just falls away, I would say, in some way. Would you agree if you've seen an example of it? Would you say that's how you see it? Sheila, I'm particularly interested. She mentioned on a call yesterday that you went to a talk, somebody talking about collaborative imagination. Did I get that right? Would you say she was talking about something like this?
Yeah, it was all about creating the future. It was a talk for kids that are getting scholarships and going to college, and targeted at that. It was about creating the future. And uh, yeah, there were um, yeah, she was, this sociologist was also an artist, a painting artist. And she was all about, how we're going to come together and create the future together.
Yeah.
And she was talking about imagination and art being one of those things, but she wasn't at all about structures or
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's really interesting because I'm really passionate about taking this as a modality into the world. And certainly I'm not going to do that by myself. I mean, that's just not going to happen. It's like a much bigger thing that it takes many people, but I want to see it go locally, nationally, and globally. So, yeah, Lynn.
I just have a sense that that is happening because it's part of our soul, kind of already. It's already in the because it's a mathematical model within chaos theory and something else that I can't remember the name of now, but it's, all of these murmurations can be, they're just vectors that are connected. And I think I think we're naturally drawn to it. I don't think it's something we have to fix. I think it happens from our awareness and awakening.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's beautifully said. Yeah. Yeah,
The
yeah.
shared vision thing that you were talking about that Bobby reacted to. Love resonant calling. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's essential that whatever you're up to has a resonant calling. Because if you get non-resonance in it, then it becomes challenging to do. So that's an essential first skill for it is resonant calling. Patricia said, "Can a murmuration be described as an energetic symphonic dance of resonance?" Yes, 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 yes. That's a beautiful way of saying it. I love it. Yeah, yeah. That's brilliant. Yeah. So I want to talk about some of the skills that I take. So setting up a resonant calling is part of it. And there's an energetic component to that. And I'm going to call it, you've heard me talk, I think all of you, many times about sourcing. So sourcing is different than leading. When you're leading, there's a much more definition and control, and it's going this way, and it's this approach. But when you're sourcing, there's an energetic that's much more inclusive, expansive, collaborative, wanting the best out of everyone to contribute. It's got a very different feel to it to leading. So I've done a whole bunch of things on the art of sourcing because I think it's an art form. It's like a dance, like Patricia was saying. It's very different to leading and all the leadership stuff that's in the world. I think this is very, very different. So can we just, for fun, line ourselves up and power up to source murmurocracies into the world? Whoever receives them, however they do it, and let's just see how that works, what that feels like. Okay? However you want to do that. All right, here we go. That feels fantastic. You can see when you're sourcing, there's no, this is one of the other things about, I think, a murmurocracy. There isn't so much of an agenda behind it. Someone can have an initial vision, but that vision constantly is enriched and enhanced and expanded by the collaborations that are participating with it. Kelly, you were going to say something? Oh, you're on mute, by the way. Kelly, you're on mute.
I'm trying because I was about to
Yeah.
type it in the box. Can people mute themselves when they're not talking? Because I'm getting a lot of background noise from someone.
Okay.
I don't know who, but yeah, just to
Okay.
say.
Good. Yeah, great.
Sorry, that was
Okay, good. I was including it, whatever. It was kids, so it's like, oh, the kids are joining in. So, yeah, very cool. Yeah. So you can see how there's an energetic component, I think. And I do think people like Hot Mess Express, I don't know that it was started energetically, but certainly I think from the videos I've seen of these women, mums helping mums, they swoop in together and each one does what they want to do. It's not like you do this and you do, it's like, I'll do the laundry, I'll do the floors, I'll do the dishes, I'll do the garden, because there's a resonance, a love or a passion, or they're good at that. They know that's what they would like to do. I don't think anybody forces them to do anything. That's my impression of seeing the videos. And I think that's one of the key parts of a murmurocracy is it takes the loves, the passions, the genius of each and merges it into the expansion and enrichment of the whole. And I think that's a key part of it. So you can't be controlling or rules based or saying you go do this when they don't want to do it. That somehow diminishes something. Like I think in a murmuration, if you look at the birds, sometimes they split off. Do you know what I mean? Like there must be a purpose behind, or maybe one bird drops out and goes sit on the bench and goes, "Yeah, I'm done my part." I don't know. Like it's not a forced dance. It's there's a joy in a murmuration, in a murmurocracy. And I think when we're using what I call this sourcing capacity, it raises the vibrational frequency. It then that raises the conscious awareness and the interwoven connectedness and the freedom to express our joy, our what we love, what we do well. And I think that's a kind of an essential part of being a source. So anybody want to ask or comment or share anything about, yeah, Colin, go for it.
I think we've already had this here, and my observation because since I joined, um, I've had spin-offs that are totally unlooked for, where somebody messages and says, "Hey, I like your vibration or whatever it is," and we zoom off and do something. And I think that's the characteristic of this energy is it's not here. It's already flowing and it has a signature. So another individual will spot that signature, or you'll spot that individual, and then there might be another, and you might split off three, maybe two, or
Yeah,
and do whatever you do, and then we'll come back to the commemoration, and then so I think you've already initiated that with this group,
yes.
and I think it's already working. It's just that we haven't called it anything particularly. But I think that's how that the flow of that is working already, in
Yeah.
my observation.
If I explain that a little bit more, as he's because so I host the Murmuration of Maestros. I don't control the Murmuration of Maestros. It's a membership group, but we go. I don't say go here and do that. I say go, pick a topic, take whatever you got from that and go, right? So I've been hosting it for a number of years. And then some people wanted, I think it initially started by wanted to work more with a kind of extraterrestrial energetics or DNA stuff, and that's not really my thing. So Colin said, I'll host extra calls. And anybody who's called to that can come onto those calls, and then he shares the recording onto the Maestros group and into the Global Alliance of Modern Day Alchemists and into your own celestial alchemy, which works great because they're now still doing the work. I'm thrilled. I love it. It's like that's what he's pointing to. And like you said, sometimes it's a Zoom call, like this week you and Lynn and Lena did with these great big laughter grins on your faces, I saw. And sometimes it's you, Kathleen, and Alette, and you're working on specific things, but it's all part of the murmuration.
Mm.
And I love that. I absolutely love it. Anything that moves the world forward, I'm for it. That's just brilliant. And I will say it was there were times in years past where it was a little bit more challenging for me because it wasn't that I was trying to hold on to it. It was that I was moving into new areas myself, and then sometimes people would say things, I'd be like, how do I hold that? When I, and without, because I'm not teaching in it, I'm not directing it. You see what I mean? So I've had to come into a richer appreciation of all the movement and all the unique ways and all the beliefs and all the that's part of what I had to grow into myself in order to continue to be a host and or a source for it. I think all the people who participate in the Murmuration Maestros are sources. I don't, I, we're all that, they're all treated like that and they all show up like that. It's not like, and it's so interesting. One of the things I used to do years ago that I haven't thought of in quite some time, we don't show up in student mode. Do you know, like when you're in student mode, you're like, I'm trying to learn something. We show up like, here I am, let's go. I got stuff. And it's a very different modality that isn't often utilized in the world, I think, which I love. So one of the ways in a murmurocracy that you can do that is by recognizing the uniqueness of others, the genius of others, creating a space where that genius can be unleashed and contributed and accepted and utilized. Because the other thing that happens with them when we're, for example, in the Murmuration of Maestros group, we're often creating a new possibility. And we don't know as we're doing it what that new possibility, and it's coming from there, from there, from there, from there, all different, and it's getting fused into a kind of kaleidoscopic picture forming of something new that may not have been before. And then so we go do the work, we call what we call, we each bring what we bring, but there's no contribution that isn't accepted as part of this new creation that we're making. You can see that, right, in the calls that we do. It's not like, well, that one doesn't count. That never happens. It's all fused into the energetics, the consciousness, the breakthrough that then we start to talk about, we start to bring something that is formless into form. And that's a skill we've all been developing over recent times. And I think that's part of what a murmurocracy does, is you bring something that's new, trying to show up into form. So if I use the mums, the Hot Mess Express mums, I wouldn't say that's new. Probably over centuries, women have always probably helped women. But in today's society, to do something like that is quite brilliant. And I'm seeing more and more of that now. Even social media is using it. There's a guy I follow on Facebook called, his tagline is, "That was epic." And because it's on social media, he makes a lot of money. So he takes the money and he goes out and he gives the money to people. He just gives it to people. And you wouldn't believe how hard it is to give people money. They're all like, whoa. So this video I watched of him, and I thought this was amazing. He went into a community and he was chatting away and helping people pay their rent. And he knocks on doors and gives you a month's rent. What do you pay for rent? Here's a month's rent. And they said, don't go over there. That's a bad community and there's a lot of shooting going on and you just don't go into that community. So he said, okay, thanks. And he walked straight into that community where there was a bunch of teenage boys sitting behind a table with a thing saying, selling peanuts. And they were trying to raise money to go to a basketball tournament in New Orleans. And it was going to cost $200 per student. And he said, here's $1,000. And he started to talk with them. These kids were lovely, and neighbors came out and started to talk. And that you could see, oh my God, the neighboring communities thought this was dangerous. And here were these lovely teenagers who were like really just trying to do something for their whole team, for their community. It was really quite touching to me to see somebody like that. So I know that's not exactly a murmurocracy, but that concept of giving without expectation, I'm seeing more and more in the world, which I think is a maybe that's a murmurocracy. The concept of giving without expectation is kind of flowing into the world, and those are some of the examples of it. So I think that's really great. Yeah. So I'm going to keep going, but anybody want to ask anything or share anything before I keep going anymore? Yeah, Colin.
I think the other thing I've noticed is that any skills you thought you had, put them down because the new skills will come to you
Yes.
in the moment. And I think that that's my biggest, well, it has been my biggest challenge, a bit like you were describing, when, things are sort of going off and you're thinking, oh, I'm not in control anymore. Mine was putting down my scripts,
Yeah.
and my mega PowerPoints and things that I've been used to. It's like I'm just gonna turn up and not have a script. Ooh,
Yeah.
scary. So
Yeah.
I think there's another level to stepping into this is to just be prepared for the new to be throwing, the new you, if you like,
Yeah.
to flow.
Yeah.
And because that's the contribution that the source of you is looking for
Yes.
is I want to come through you, but I don't want you to be what you were
Yes.
in a way.
Or even what you've learned, as you said, it's not, it's very in the moment-ish and very inspirational. Yeah, by being in the frequency, Patricia. Yeah, and it's kind of like I think true murmuration surprises you. It surprises you by the collaboration, by the showing up of genius, by the breakthroughs that happen, by the contribution that happens, and by the outcomes. I think you could have a vision of this is what I'm looking to accomplish, but in a true murmurocracy, you'd be surprised by the outcomes. They would go far beyond because it's a collaboration. Like that one where I was talking about the hypervoisins in Paris. They were doing all kinds of things that changed the dynamics of the neighborhoods and multiple neighborhoods. It created a model that kind of rippled through, and I think that's really quite brilliant. So yeah. And that whole concept of being in the moment, if you look, one of the things I think is really showing up at the moment is a desire for authenticity. You can see that, right? You're looking for somebody who's really authentic. There's a lot of selling and marketing going on, and it kind of like, whoa, give me authentic, genuine, something like that. And inspirational and kind of something that uplifts us. I think we're looking to be uplifted and have it touch us in some way and elevate us to a new possibility or a new way of being together or something like that. So yeah. Yeah, thanks, Colin. Yeah, Sheila.
Actually, Patricia's been trying to talk for a while. Why don't you
Oh,
go, Patricia?
sorry, Patricia, I missed it.
Uh, I just wanted to say how synchronistic this all is. Um, we're having our first Zoom call that will be a monthly event called Co-Creating Heaven on Earth, where
Oh,
everyone is invited to come in and share their personal practice that they use to keep that higher elevated frequency, that higher consciousness, that heavenly consciousness. And so it's a murmuration of sorts, and I never applied that word to it before this,
yeah.
but that's exactly what it's creating. And I just announced it on June 1st.
Ooh,
So yeah, this is great. So thank you, Solara.
that's fabulous. Are you in touch with Martin Root? Do you know him? I did a video of him a while ago, and he he's work his whole project is Heaven on Earth, and he was one of the authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he's easy to contact. He's Canadian, just Rutte is his last name, Martin. He's
Oh
on
yeah, I've
Facebook.
seen his name.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's a
But
wonderful guy. You might want to just let him know you're doing that. And
Thank you.
because
Thank you.
he's got a global kind of thing going with that as well. You might enjoy connecting with him and him
Thank
with
you.
you. Yeah.
And anyone here who wants to bring their gifts, yeah, I think it is totally a collaboration.
Yeah.
It's what we're creating, it's what we're co-creating, heaven on earth. So,
Oh, Bobby just wrote something about that he was also involved with the Artist's Way. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. It's amazing how we can touch so many things without necessarily, being the author of it or the leader of it it's so brilliant to be able to work like that. It's extraordinary. Yeah. So Sheila, were you going to say something? You were just pointing me to Patricia.
No. Um, I also participate with with a murmuration. When you asked the question, I don't know, you put it up on our page or whatever a few days ago, and so I've been thinking about it. Um, I do yoga with a group of mostly women at a community center once a week, and one day there was a conversation about how people wanted to maybe meditate together afterwards, and and in public. I mean, so we go into the lunchroom of this community center and hold presence together for whatever good you want to give to the world, and then people talk about it, and it
Wow.
every week it's different. Every week different people come. It is clearly a murmuration of a shared energy that we all, have a piece of,
Yeah.
and um, it's wonderful. Yeah,
That's a brilliant example too, just like Patricia's. Yeah, those are wonderful examples. Yeah.
yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Because you're called to it, and sometimes you're there, and sometimes you're not, and you contribute how
yeah.
you contribute. It's the best of everybody kind of thing. And if there's not resonance, then you move away to find resonance. It's a beautiful way of doing it. So, yeah. So, I think the other thing I would say, I'm now using the word the joy of murmurating. I don't even know if murmurating is a word, and even if there is a word, if it even means what I mean. Do you know, like, because murmur is to gossip, right? But murmurating isn't gossiping. Murmurating is coming together and fluidly co-creating something, which is quite extra. So I talk about the joy of murmurating, and it does seem to happen in joy. Like even when I watch the videos of these moms helping moms, they're not tediously trying to clean up a house. They're laughing, they're talking, they're sharing, they're creating a beautiful space together. There's a joy in it that's quite amazing, actually. And if I could just say one thing about, because when I started I came up with this. I didn't come up with the word, but it came to me in February, and I just came across, I Google searched MURMUROCRACY and found Google pulled up my post from February that I put on Facebook about it. And that's where I found the Hot Mess Express moms again. So, but another friend, because I put a post up in Substack about it the other day, and another friend said she had been working with AI and in the last 3 days, it has mentioned, without her instigation, murmurocracy 3 times. And I was like, whoo, it's working. Like, I thought that was really cool. It kind of, it will have a life of its own. It will spread of its own. It will just, people will pick it up and do things with it and develop it and create and model it and whatever. It's that kind of thing. And that's I will have my part in that. You guys might have your part in that. And then when we're done our part in it, we might step away. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to own it forever. Because I don't think anybody can own something like that. It's a big conceptual, beautiful breakthrough modality that is global and maybe even universal. It probably is universal, actually. So let me just talk about a couple other things. One is collaborative genius fusion, and the other is moving our gaze from what is to what wants to happen now, to what's trying to emerge. Those are two very distinct skills that I think are essential to being able to run something like a murmurocracy. So, collaborative genius fusion is where everyone's genius is contributed. You're creating a space of recognition and inclusion and unleashing a comfortable space for every genius to be contributed. And the collaborative genius fusion is it like when we're in the maestros, you can see that's what we're doing, collaborative genius fusion. We're all like doing the energetic work. Many of us share what we see. Some don't know how to even talk about it. So, but it's forming something. And then we talk about it a little bit more. We do it again. We talk about it a little bit more. We do it again. We talk about it. Oh, that's what we're doing. And this formless genius fusion of many maestros comes out as a breakthrough. And I have to say, as a host for, or even as a source for that, I have no idea what we're going to create. I didn't know that breakthrough existed before we created it. I'm as amazed by it as we all, I think, are. And some people might go, oh, yeah, I knew that. But there's an amazement to it, a willingness to not try to control it or shape it or have it be what you think it's supposed to be. You have to get big and step back and expand and source a space for something to emerge that's beyond what we know. Right? And I think that's what's moving in these things. So I would call that collaborative genius fusion. So the second piece I was talking about is how to move your gaze from what is to what's wanting to become now. That's a very different skill set because most people are looking at this is what's happening in the world. How are we going to fix that? How are we going to improve that? How are we going to transform that? How are we going to even transcend that? The gaze is at what is. But if you take your gaze and you look at what's trying to happen here, what's trying to emerge, you don't know, and you look at a different frequency of new possibility. And I talk about it as raise your gaze, I guess is how I would say it. But it is, you have to really frame away from what is to what's wanting to happen or what's wanting to emerge, what's the new possibility, etc., etc. And so I can use a nearby town to us where we live, where it's got this beautiful, well, I'll name it. So Avalon is this mystical, magical, amazing place, and there's Glastonbury town, which is also an amazing, magical place. But they're kind of two things trying to find a fit. And there's controversies going on inside Glastonbury town on multiple facets. And I see that I'm beginning to see it actually, because I started last week to just energize it. And I've seen two things recently written by people. And I thought, "Oh, they're starting to talk about what's trying to emerge rather than what is and what was. And it's how you look to what's trying to emerge immediately puts things right. It changes the dynamics of it. Yeah? So if you have, for example, an example of something that you're working on or something that's you find is in the world and you'd like to see different, let's just play with it for a minute, whatever that is for each of us. Okay? I'll use Avalon and Glastonbury. Okay, so if you look straight on at it and you look at the challenges and the how it is, okay, now then you raise your gaze, and when you do that, it's like something comes open and alive inside of you. There's a kind of power surge, there's a joy, there's a vibrancy, and you're looking at what's trying to emerge from that and see what you get. Okay. Yeah, because you see the feeling is so different. It's like, whoa, something just cascades through you and into the space and all of that. So as I was looking at what is it that's trying to emerge, I've never been able to quite put words on it. And you could say the dilemma is between the ancient, mystical, magical, and pilgrimage, as it's held as a spiritual pilgrimage, and tourism. That's the dilemma that they're experiencing. But what's trying to emerge is mystical adventuring, like like a kind of fusing of the two, but put it into modern and to be a model for unity in the world. Because Glastonbury and Avalon is a beautiful model for that, despite some of the conflicts that are going on. It models it. They have over 70 or 80 different faiths, and they all pretty much get along. And you'll see them going up and down the streets together and cheering each other on. And, it models something, which is quite lovely, actually. So that's what I got. So anybody want to share what you got while you were doing that? How was the experience for you? Yeah, Lynn.
My focus was my thesis because I'm all into that these days. But I think it's just come to me just very recently that the what I'm trying to share through what I'm writing is that there's another model for relationality, that it's the ethics of relationality. That's the code word that kind of opened up something to me, even just today. And when I saw that that was what I'm bringing, it was like I'm breaking the whole paradigm of looking at the problem as is into a problem as what is it, what it wants to become. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a look away from the past and even the present, not just into the future, but for me, I talk about it as purpose, and I think sometimes you talk about
Yeah,
it
but
too. I
it's
like
a
your language,
purpose.
though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's absolutely about purpose, and it's about bringing another direction within the academia as well. That it's for the betterment of something much more.
Yeah. Fantastic. I love it. Yeah. Anybody else want to share what you got? Yeah, Sheila.
Well, I took the United States government,
Bravo.
looking at it, and what I got when I raised it up was it's a wake up call. What we're going through is a wake up call, um, to actually look at the reality of bullying and beginning to understand uh, a possibility of inspiration.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I also see through that the emergence of the people's voice and the people's directionality, which is moving to a murmuration in a way. It's moving us to a new model of how things can work. So yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? No. Okay. Yeah. So you can see that the world isn't really attuned to look at what isn't yet. The world is very much used to looking at what is and what was. That's the focus and trying to then fix what is and what was. But actually, when you just look at what's trying to emerge, if you can just point yourself in that direction, it changes the whole dynamics. I think it changes the energetics, the space, the calling, the whole thing of it. So I would recommend to anybody who's wanting to set up something like this, that you look at what's really, what's trying to emerge here. So Patricia's creating heaven on earth. So you orient, that's already oriented. It's like, what's the new version of us? That's the new world. What's the, et cetera, et cetera. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? Brilliant. Yeah. Patricia, would you like us as a murmurating crew to align with you in that project and energize it with you?
I'd love that. That's
Okay,
what actually the coming together for the meeting is all about,
yeah,
where we share and learn from each other and inspire each other and give each other best practices that
yeah.
we can utilize in our own lives.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely. Please,
okay,
please.
good. So she's creating a murmurocracy, and we're gonna high vibe that murmurocracy and see if there's anything we want to share afterwards as a contribution. Okay, here we go. Okay. That felt wonderful. I'm a wordsmith. It's one of the things I do. And I'm always coming up with new words. And as I was being with you in it and joy in the joy and the celebration of it, and I thought, well, what would I say to people as me saying, well, what could you do? And it was become a heavenator. And then I started to laugh and I came right out because I couldn't help myself. I just started to laugh. There you go. And I think if somebody becomes a heavenator, it just embodies into their whole day and life. And, it isn't even something you have to talk about. It's just something you kind of say yes to and you're off and rolling, kind of, and you'll develop your own way forward. So that's what I got. Anybody else want to share what you got? Yeah, Gunny.
I I was just seeing the ripple effect that us coming together and doing the murmuration thing, what we do, without having an outcome or anything. It's just meeting up and showing up, and how mycelium and the osmosis of energy frequency is shared, and we won't know how we are touching, but I saw it like you were talking about, for example, USA and all that. It's just like we send out these like flashes of change, and that's kind of like the energetic mycelium. Or And I was thinking about the word Ubuntu in from South Africa. Isn't that something that is like coming together and showing up and being. I think that's kind of old thing that they do.
Yeah.
So that was my.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, Patricia, go for it.
Thank you. I doing that process that you led us through, and it was like I could just see this. It was like I don't want to say fireworks, but it was like this this whole collective field of light that the greater amount of people that come and into this co-creating of heaven on earth murmuration, it becomes a field that is so powerful and so resonant that others entrain
Yeah.
into that resonance just naturally. Just
Yes.
it's a rising up. And
Yeah.
so that's what I got, that it's a unity consciousness
Yeah.
because it's going to be all different practices. It's going to be all different belief systems, but it doesn't matter about the belief system. It's about the practice that embodies,
Yes.
embodies each person to maintain and sustain a heavenly consciousness.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
Yeah. Brilliant. And isn't that what the world kind of need? Because, the last, at least the last 26 years since the internet came into place, we are becoming global citizens and universal citizens. I mean, there's a recognition of that very clearly in all of us. And, I grew up in a time when I was lucky to know 60 miles around where I lived, kind of thing. And now it's like, oh, no, New Zealand, Australia, India, US, Canada, Mexico. It's like, that's just part of my daily life now. And I think that globality, one of the things that I think we're sparking us towards, and it's happening, I think, anyways, but we can spark it as a murmuration, is that willingness to be in the joy of our differences, of our uniquenesses, of our contributions, of the cultures, the beliefs, the religions, the faiths, the celebrations of it all. I think that's an essential part of where we're going next. And I think that's a murmuration. And, one of the kind of last things I will say is, it seems to me there's a greater hand at a place in this. And I wouldn't necessarily put a name on the greater hand because everybody will have a different name for it or a different way of saying it or, whatever. But when you look at those birds flying, boy, whew, it touches deep. Like it really moves you when you see it, when you recognize what is being formed in the skies above you, and not one single bird crashing into another single bird and forming these amazing pictures of something that's quite glorious. And I think that whatever we call that intelligence, that hand, that force, that power, it's embedded in all of us. It's embedded in nature. It's embedded in the oceans, in the mycelium networks, in the trees, in the sky, in the universe. And I think that that's something that we're getting used to dancing with. I like your term, Patricia, dancing with in some way that it doesn't have to be prescriptive anymore. We don't have to say it's this thing or it's this way or it's got this term and we can argue about the terms. Or it's like it's a murmuration of many ways of expressing that and finding it and living in it, and that leads to the unity that you were talking about. Is that it's a very different approach to us. So there you go. Murmurocracies. So before we go, shall we just energize each in our own ways and all together what that is for the world, and putting it into the world and gifting it to anybody who wants to use it and do things with it and go for it. Okay, here we go. Mm. That felt fantastic. That was really lovely. I think there are already examples of this in the world happening. I don't know that anybody would call it that necessarily, but they're in the world already, and more people are finding ways to use these kinds of approaches to develop things. Yeah. Bobby said symphony, opera, tapestry. Yeah. I could just feel it like their world, have it. To design it how you want it, be in it how it works for you, and fulfill it in some wonderful way. I think as well there's a kind of natural abundance and joy and fulfillment in doing it this way. You feel like you get to contribute. You feel like you've made a difference. You feel the joy of doing what you love and contributing what is yours to contribute. It's that kind of thing. So wonderful. Anybody want to say anything about that before we go? Nope. Okay. Thank you for being part of bringing this into the world. That was wonderful. I loved doing that with you all. That was brilliant. Good stuff. Kelly, were you going to say something? Oh, did you say you're just saying goodbye? Oh, okay. Yeah. Mwah.
Yeah, I was just saying goodbye.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you,
being
everybody.
part of this.
Bye.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Lots of love. Bye.